Hello, we are in a very special week. This week's Parsha is Parshas Lech Lecha. As the Rebbe says, Lech Lecha teaches us the first teaching that was ever said to a Jew and perhaps a spiritual seeker. The first Torah portion is, of course, all about Adam. And Adam is a creation of God and a way a recipient. Noach finds favor, but as we sort of understand, he doesn't have a great stardom in the history. He sort of is saved as opposed to all the people of his nation. But Abraham is the light. I believe it was a previous Rebbe or perhaps the Medrash that says that the world operated in darkness until Abraham came and light began to shine. In fact, it says that Abraham received a reward for all the good beforehand because it was mainly bad. And what was the primary message? It's an amazing teaching. You know, the Torah exists on two dimensions. It exists on the dimension that we can comprehend, and then there is the Chassidus. There is the soul of the Torah, which is revealed inspiration connected to infinite growth. And these words are so profound that they resonate so clearly in each of our lives. The thing that God told Abraham was far more than leave where you are, Haran, and go to Israel. The actual wording is so instructive. It is Lech Lecha. Lech means go, Lecha means to yourself. In other words, as Rashi says, God said, I am going to show you who you are. We all have a perception of who we are, but that perception, of course, is based on our identity. Our identity is based on our upbringing. In other words, I naturally perceive myself to be a Weinberg, my last name. I perceive myself to be a Jew, my religion. I perceive myself to be an American, my country, because this is where I was born, the family I was born into, the religion I was born into. But what if, in my case, I'm happy to say, God forbid, I was born, I don't know, some Muslim child in an Arab country. So there's no reason why I wouldn't consider myself that family, that religion, and that country in the same way. In fact, maybe I would even hate the person who I am now and want to kill him, God forbid. So you see, the identity we pick up was given to us. That's not who you are. If you want to become yourself, Lech, you have to go from who you perceive yourself to be. And that's why it says, Lech lecha me'artzecha, you have to go from your land. You have to go away from the identity you have as belonging to this country. I think that one of the reasons, the times we live in, as it states that before the Mashiach comes, that we will say there's no leaders, the only one to rely on is God, which was obvious to the whole world, is because God actually wants us to get to that state. You know, when you have powerful leaders and everything is good, so you actually become a sheep. God doesn't want you to be a sheep. He wants you to be a shepherd. He wants you to grow. He wants you to understand your own potential. And therefore, we have to live in these times where we don't have leaders in order for us to be able to exit our identity. And when we have an identity, we actually subsume ourselves to the greater mass. I mean, who am I compared to the great America? And people do things for the governments, many times crazy things, because they think, wow, my government's so great, it must be right, it's so big. But the thing is, what is it in the end of the day? It just happens to be one person in the office at this time. Some other day, some other person's going to be in the office. It makes no difference. The whole thing is like, you know, George Orwell says in 1984, you know, they're changing their mind every day anyway. So the bottom line is that you have to leave your identity. I'm not an American. So my next identity is mi beis avicha, from your father's house. I consider myself a Weinberg. That's who I am. That's my last name. I'm not a Weinberg. What made me a Weinberg? I happen to be born in this family. God wanted me in another family, I'd be somewhere else. My parents, they were happy to be born in that family. I'm not that either. What's my next identity? This is a very deep identity. This is the identity of my body. I consider my body me. If you ask someone, point to yourself, they point to their body. So I'm not my body. If I was born into another body, I'd be that body, right? I'm obviously the collection of my thoughts and my emotions. When I'm sleeping, I'm not me. It's my thoughts and my emotions. That's who I am. If you could transport those thoughts and emotions into another body, that body would be me. So I'm not my body. I'm not my Weinberg self, and I'm not an American. These are not things that I am. These are things that I happen to have been born into. But who I can become is I can become part of God. I can become infinite. And how do I become infinite? El ha'aretz asher areka. If I am willing to let go of the hold that these identities have on me and say these are not going to determine my behavior, these will not determine my actions. What will determine who I am is whatever God instructs me to do. That and that alone, that is how I will become all that I can be.